My family forgot my birthday again. So I bought the resort they celebrated at. Some betrayals cut so deep that they reshape your very understanding of family. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally become the architects of your greatest pain. And sometimes, the most devastating revenge comes not from anger, but from the quiet strength of knowing your own worth. Hit like and subscribe if you've ever been underestimated by your own family. My name is Victoria Hayes. I am 29 years old, and I live in Seattle, Washington. For most of my life, I believed that family meant everything. I believed that blood ties were unbreakable, that love was automatic, and that being forgotten was just an occasional oversight. I believed these things right up until the moment I discovered that my family had been celebrating my birthday without me for 3 years running. The discovery came on a Tuesday morning in October, exactly 1 week after my 29th birthday had passed in complete silence. I was sitting in my downtown office, reviewing quarterly reports for the tech startup I'd founded 5 years earlier, when my phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. My younger sister Marielle had tagged me in a story from the previous week. The image made my breath catch in my throat. It was a group photo taken at Cascade Mountain Resort, about 2 hours east of the city. My entire family was there, my parents, Gerald and Diane, my older brother Marcus with his wife and kids, my younger sister Marielle with her boyfriend, and even my Aunt Linda, who rarely traveled from Portland. They were all gathered around a beautifully decorated table on the resort's famous lakeside terrace, champagne glasses raised in celebration. The caption read, "Family tradition continues. Another amazing birthday celebration at our favorite spot." I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to process what I was seeing. The timestamp showed it was from the day after my birthday. They had driven 2 hours to celebrate at an expensive resort, planned what looked like an elaborate dinner, and gathered everyone together. Everyone except me. I scrolled through Marielle's other posts from that day. There were dozens of photos. The family hiking the resort's scenic trails, lounging by the pool, enjoying what appeared to be a multi-course dinner in the resort's 5-star restaurant. The hashtags told the story. Hashtag family time, hashtag birthday tradition, hashtag Cascade Resort, hashtag blessed, hashtag unbreakable bonds. My hands were shaking as I opened the family group chat on my phone. The last message was from 3 weeks ago, a photo my mother had sent of her new garden. Before that, scattered conversations about holiday plans and my nephew's soccer schedule. Nothing about a birthday celebration. Nothing about Cascade Mountain Resort. Nothing about me. I called my mother first. "Celeste, sweetheart, how are you?" Her voice was warm, the same tone she'd used my entire life when she was pleased to hear from me. "I'm fine, Mom. I saw Marielle's Instagram post from last week. It looked like you all had a lovely time at the resort." There was a pause. Then, "Oh, that, yes. It was very nice. We try to do something special for family birthdays. You know how it is. Whose birthday were you celebrating?" Another pause. Longer. This time, "Well, it was just a general family gathering, really. You know how your father loves that place." The lie sat between us like a stone. I had seen the decorations, the cake, the champagne toast. I had read the caption about birthday traditions. "Mom, whose birthday was it?" "Celeste. I don't understand." "Why? You're asking." "It was just a family dinner." I ended the call without saying goodbye. I tried Marcus next. My older brother had always been the responsible one, the mediator in family conflicts, the one who remembered everyone's important dates. Surely he would tell me the truth. "Hey, little sister, what's up? I saw the photos from Cascade Resort last week. Looked like quite a celebration." "Oh yeah, that was great. The kids loved the hiking trails. You should come with us next time." "Next time for what, Marcus?" "Just when we go back. It's becoming a regular thing." "A regular thing for what occasion?" I could hear him shifting uncomfortably. "Celeste, what's this about?" "It's about the fact that you were all celebrating a birthday at an expensive resort, and nobody thought to invite me. It's about the fact that my own family has apparently established a tradition that doesn't include me." The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. "Look," Marcus finally said, "it wasn't anything personal. We just thought you were busy with work stuff. You know how you are about business trips and meetings and all that." My birthday was October 15th, Marcus. I was in town. I was home alone eating leftover Chinese food and wondering why nobody had called. "I thought your birthday was in November." The casual dismissal in his voice hit me harder than any deliberate cruelty could have. My own brother, who had known me for 29 years, didn't even know when I was born. I hung up and sat in my office chair, staring out at the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle looked small from this height, just another landmark in a city full of people who knew their place in the world. I had built a successful company, employed 43 people, and generated enough revenue to afford any luxury I wanted. But I couldn't buy my way into my own family's memory. That evening, I drove to my parents' house in Bellevue. The lights were on in the kitchen, and I could see my mother moving around, probably preparing dinner. For a moment, I almost turned around. There was something appealing about pretending this conversation never needed to happen, about maintaining the illusion that families naturally include each other in their important moments. But the image of that resort table, with the empty space where I should have been sitting, kept playing in my mind. My father answered the door. "Celeste, what a nice surprise. Your mother didn't mention you were coming by. I need to talk to both of you." They sat across from me at the same kitchen table where I'd done homework, eaten countless family dinners, and received lectures about responsibility and commitment. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I want to know about the birthday celebration at Cascade Resort." My mother's face immediately tensed. "Celeste, I already explained that it wasn't anything special." "Mom, stop lying to me. I saw the photos. I saw the decorations and the cake and the champagne. I saw the caption about family traditions. What I want to know is how long this has been going on and why I've never been invited." My parents exchanged a look that spoke of conversations I'd never been part of, decisions made without my input or knowledge. My father cleared his throat. "The thing is, sweetheart, we know how busy you are. Your company, your clients, all those meetings. We didn't want to burden you with family obligations." "Burden me? You thought celebrating birthdays with your daughter would be a burden?" "That's not what he meant," my mother said quickly. "It's just that you've become so independent, so focused on your career. We thought you might prefer to celebrate in your own way." "What way is that, Mom? Alone?" She didn't answer. "How long has this been happening?" Another exchanged look. "The resort trip started about 3 years ago," my father said quietly. "It was Marielle's idea, actually. She thought it would be nice to have a special place for family celebrations. 3 years. They had been doing this for 3 years. And not once had anyone mentioned it to me. Not once had anyone asked if I wanted to be included." "Whose birthdays do you celebrate there?" "Well, everyone's, really. We did one for Marcus in July, and your mother's was in September. And mine?" "When was mine?" The silence was deafening. "Celeste," my mother said carefully, "you have to understand, we weren't trying to exclude you. It's just that you seem so disconnected from family things lately. You hardly call, you're always working. You missed Thanksgiving last year because of that conference." "I missed Thanksgiving because I had food poisoning and spent the entire day in the emergency room. I called to tell you, and you said you understood." "Well, yes, but there's always something. There's always some reason why family time isn't convenient for you." I stared at them, these people who had raised me, who were supposed to know me better than anyone else in the world. They had created an entire narrative about who I was that bore no resemblance to the truth. In their story, I was the distant daughter, too important for family gatherings, too busy for birthday celebrations. They had used this fiction to justify erasing me from their most meaningful moments. "I call you every Sunday, Mom. I've never missed a Christmas or Easter unless I was sick. I remember everyone's birthdays, send gifts, ask about the kids' school events. What exactly makes me disconnected?" She didn't have an answer. I left that night without resolution, driving through the rain-slicked streets of Seattle with a clarity I'd never experienced before. My family had spent 3 years building a tradition that specifically excluded me, and they had convinced themselves it was my fault. They had rewritten history to make me the villain in my own story, but I wasn't angry. Anger would have been simpler, cleaner. What I felt was something deeper and more transformative. I felt the quiet strength that comes from finally seeing the truth about people you've loved your whole life. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I researched Cascade Mountain Resort with the thorough attention I usually reserved for business acquisitions. I studied their financials, their ownership structure, their market position. I learned about their seasonal occupancy rates, their customer demographics, their expansion plans. What I discovered was fascinating. Cascade Mountain Resort was a family-owned business struggling with debt. The current owners, a couple in their 70s, had been trying to sell for 2 years without success. The asking price had dropped 3 times. They needed a buyer with both the financial resources and the vision to preserve what they had built while making it profitable again. I had both. I spent the next 2 weeks conducting due diligence with the same methodical precision I'd used to build my company. I toured the property, reviewed their books, interviewed their staff, and analyzed their potential. The resort was beautiful, with incredible bones and untapped possibilities. It just needed someone who understood how to run a business in the modern hospitality market. The negotiation took another 3 weeks. The sellers were relieved to find a buyer who appreciated what they had created and wanted to preserve its character while improving its profitability. We agreed on a price that was fair to both sides and closed the deal with remarkable efficiency. I officially became the owner of Cascade Mountain Resort on November 28th, exactly 6 weeks after I'd seen that Instagram post. I didn't tell my family immediately. There was something delicious about having the secret, about knowing that the place they considered their special refuge now belonged to me. I spent the first month after the purchase working with the existing management team to implement changes that would improve both the guest experience and the bottom line. We upgraded the technology systems, refined the menu offerings, and created new packages that appealed to corporate retreats and wedding parties. The resort's bookings increased by 30% in December alone. I finally told my family about the purchase during our annual Christmas gathering at my parents' house. We were all seated around the living room, the adults sipping wine while the kids played with their new toys. The conversation had turned to holiday travel plans, and Marielle was enthusiastically describing their upcoming New Year's celebration. "We're going back to Cascade Resort for New Year's Eve," she said, practically glowing with excitement. "They have this amazing package with champagne and dancing and a midnight fireworks show over the lake. It's going to be magical." "That sounds lovely," I said quietly. "I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time. You should really come with us sometime." "Celeste," my mother said, as if she hadn't spent the past 3 years specifically not inviting me. "I think you'd enjoy it, actually," I said, setting down my wine glass. "I've already been there recently. I had some business at the resort." "Business?" Marcus looked curious. "What kind of business?" "I bought it." The words dropped into the conversation like stones into still water, creating ripples of confusion and disbelief. "You bought what?" my father asked. "Cascade Mountain Resort. I'm the new owner." The silence that followed was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. You could have heard a pin drop in that room full of people who suddenly didn't know what to say. Marielle was the first to speak. "You're joking." "I'm not joking. I closed on the purchase 4 weeks ago. I've been working with the management team to implement some improvements. The occupancy rates are already up significantly." "But why?" my mother asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because it's a good investment. The hospitality industry is recovering nicely from the pandemic, and the resort has excellent bones. With the right management and marketing strategy, it should be quite profitable." "But you knew it was our special place," Marielle said, and for the first time I heard something like vulnerability in her voice. "Your special place?" I looked around the room at their shocked faces. "The place where you celebrate family birthdays without inviting me? The place where you create memories that don't include me? That special place?" My mother's face had gone pale. "Celeste, we never meant to hurt you." "I know you didn't. That's what makes it so devastating. You hurt me without even thinking about it. You erased me from your family traditions so casually that you convinced yourselves it was my choice." I stood up, suddenly feeling lighter than I had in months. "But here's the thing about owning a business in the hospitality industry. You get to decide who feels welcome and who doesn't. You get to set the tone for the entire experience." I walked to the entryway and picked up my coat. "Your New Year's reservation is confirmed, by the way. I made sure of that personally. I want you to have exactly the family celebration you've been enjoying for the past 3 years. The same table on the terrace, the same champagne, the same view of the lake." I paused at the door. "The only difference is that now you'll know who made it possible." I drove home through the quiet Christmas evening streets, past houses glowing with warm light and families gathered inside. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about what I was missing. I was thinking about what I had built. The next morning, I received a series of text messages from various family members. They ranged from apologetic to angry to confused. but they all shared the same underlying theme. I had somehow crossed a line by buying the resort. I had made things awkward. I had turned a simple family tradition into something complicated and uncomfortable. I read each message carefully, and then I deleted them all. That afternoon, I drove out to Cascade Mountain Resort. The winter landscape was breathtaking, with snow-covered peaks reflected in the crystal-clear lake. The resort itself looked magnificent, its rustic elegance enhanced by the holiday decorations my staff had installed. Guests were arriving for their holiday stays, couples and families drawn by the peaceful beauty of the setting. I walked through the main lodge, checking on details, and greeting guests. The staff was thriving under the new management structure we'd implemented, and their enthusiasm was infectious. Several guests commented on how welcoming and well-run everything seemed. In the main dining room, I paused at the large windows that overlooked the lake. This was where my family would sit in a few days, raising their champagne glasses in celebration of another year together. They would enjoy the food, the service, the view, and the sense of tradition they had created here, but now they would also carry the knowledge that their tradition existed at my discretion. Every time they returned to this place, they would remember that I was the one who made it possible. Every photograph they took, every memory they created here, would be connected to the daughter and sister they had forgotten. It wasn't cruel. I hadn't banned them or made them unwelcome. I had simply ensured that they could never again pretend I didn't exist. The revenge was perfect because it was built on success rather than destruction. I hadn't torn anything down. I had built something up, created something valuable, made something better than it was before. The resort was thriving, the staff was happy, and the guests were enjoying experiences they would remember for years. My family's discomfort was just a byproduct of their own actions, reflected back at them through the lens of my success. Over the following months, I received occasional updates about how the family was adjusting to the new reality. My Aunt Linda called to tell me how proud she was of my business acumen. Marcus sent an awkward email acknowledging that he had gotten my birthday wrong and asking if we could meet for coffee. My mother left several voicemails that I didn't return. Marielle was the one who finally came to see me in person. She showed up at my office on a rainy Tuesday in March, looking smaller and more uncertain than I'd ever seen her. "I need to talk to you," she said. We sat in my conference room, the same room where I'd first seen those Instagram photos 6 months earlier. The irony felt appropriate. "I want to apologize," she said without preamble. "Not because you bought the resort, but because of why you bought it." I waited for her to continue. "I was the one who suggested we start having family celebrations there. I was the one who organized the first trip. And I was the one who said we shouldn't invite you." This was not what I had expected her to say. "Why?" She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the Seattle skyline. "Because you were successful, and I was jealous. Because every family gathering turned into everyone asking about your company and your achievements and how proud they were of you. Because I felt invisible when you were around." The honesty was brutal and unexpected. "So I convinced everyone that you were too busy, too important, too focused on work to want to spend time with the family. I made it seem like we were doing you a favor by not including you. And after a while, everyone believed it, including me." I had spent months trying to understand how my family could forget me so completely. I had never considered that the forgetting might have been intentional. I thought if we had our own traditions, our own special places, I might matter more. I might be the one organizing things and making decisions and being important. Tears were running down her face now. But all I did was hurt the person who never made me feel small. "You never made me feel invisible, Celeste. You always celebrated my successes and supported my dreams. And I repaid that by convincing our family to erase you." She looked directly at me for the first time since she'd arrived. "Buying the resort was brilliant, by the way. It's exactly what someone like you would do. Turn a betrayal into an opportunity, a wound into a strength. I admire that about you, even though I know I don't deserve to." We sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, the rain was tapering off, and patches of sunlight were beginning to break through the clouds. "I don't know how to fix this," she said finally. "You can't fix it," I told her. "But you can stop making it worse." She nodded, understanding that this conversation was both an ending and a beginning. After she left, I sat alone in my conference room, thinking about families and forgiveness, about success and revenge. I had gotten everything I wanted. My family would never again be able to forget that I existed. Every celebration at the resort would carry the weight of their betrayal and my response to it. But I had also learned something I hadn't expected to discover. The people who hurt us are often fighting battles we know nothing about, carrying wounds that make them cruel in ways they don't fully understand. That didn't excuse what they had done, but it helped explain it. The resort continued to thrive. Under my ownership, I expanded the corporate retreat offerings and added a wellness center that attracted guests from throughout the Pacific Northwest. The business grew beyond my original projections, becoming not just a successful investment but a meaningful contribution to the local community. My family still visited occasionally, though less frequently than before. When they did come, they were inevitably gracious and appreciative, almost formal in their interactions with my staff. The easy familiarity they had once enjoyed there was gone, replaced by the awareness that they were guests in their former refuge. I didn't visit during their stays. There was no need for dramatic confrontations or awkward encounters. My presence was felt in every detail of their experience, from the welcome amenities in their rooms to the carefully curated menu in the restaurant. They knew I was there without me having to be there. The most satisfying aspect of the entire situation was how completely it had changed the family dynamic. I was no longer the forgotten daughter, the one who was too busy for family traditions. I was the successful entrepreneur who owned their favorite resort, the sister who had turned their betrayal into her triumph. At tea family gatherings now, the conversation inevitably turned to the resort. How were the renovations progressing? Were the new guest rooms ready for the summer season? Had I seen the review in Travel and Leisure magazine? My success had become impossible to ignore or diminish, but more importantly, I had learned to see myself clearly for the first time. I wasn't the disconnected daughter my family had described. I wasn't too busy or too important for relationships. I was someone who had been systematically excluded from the people who mattered most to me, and I had found the strength to build something meaningful from that exclusion. The resort became more than a business venture. It became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that we can transform our deepest wounds into our greatest strengths. Every guest who enjoyed the peaceful beauty of the lake, every couple who celebrated their anniversary on the terrace, every family who created lasting memories in the mountain air, was experiencing something I had built from betrayal. There's a particular kind of satisfaction that comes from success, born of necessity rather than ambition. When the people who should have supported you choose to forget you instead, and you respond by building something they can never ignore, you discover reserves of strength you didn't know you possessed. My name is Victoria Hayes. I am 29 years old, and I own one of the most successful mountain resorts in the Pacific Northwest. My family will never forget my birthday again, not because they've learned to remember, but because they can't celebrate anywhere without being reminded of me. That's what I call silent revenge. Not the loud, destructive kind that leaves everyone wounded and nothing accomplished. The quiet, constructive kind that builds something beautiful from the broken pieces of trust and creates success from the ashes of betrayal. Every champagne toast they raise at that lakeside table is a toast to the daughter they forgot. Every photograph they take against that mountain backdrop includes the ghost of the sister they erased. Every tradition they continue at Cascade Mountain Resort is a celebration of my resilience. They can never again pretend I don't exist, because I exist in every detail of the place they love most. I am the reason their favorite table is always available, their preferred rooms are perfectly appointed, their special occasions are flawlessly executed. I am the silent partner in every family memory they make there, the invisible host of every celebration they plan. They wanted a family tradition without me, and now they have exactly that, a family tradition that belongs entirely to me. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. I prefer to think of it as a business best served successfully, because when you transform betrayal into triumph, when you turn exclusion into ownership, when you make your absence so profitable that it can never be ignored again, you haven't just gotten revenge, you've gotten justice. And sometimes in the quiet moments when I stand on that terrace overlooking the lake, watching families gather around tables laden with food and laughter, I remember what it felt like to eat leftover Chinese food alone on my birthday. I remember the shock of discovering I had been forgotten, the pain of realizing it was intentional, the devastating clarity of understanding that the people who were supposed to love me most had learned to love me least. But I also remember the moment I decided that their betrayal would not define me. The moment I chose to build something rather than tear something down. The moment I realized that the best revenge is not making someone pay for hurting you, but making sure they can never hurt you the same way again. My family forgot my birthday, so I bought the resort they celebrated at. Now every birthday they celebrate, there is a reminder of the one they forgot. That's not just revenge. That's poetry. Have you ever been betrayed by the people closest to you? Share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear it.